And that's one of the issues I'd like to talk to our guest about. She is involved in a group that we've had on this program many times. It's called Project 21, the Black Leadership Network. And very pleased to be joined by Marie Fischer, who's with us here on the Ringside Hotline. And Marie, how are you? Good morning. Welcome.
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So a few different topics wanted to get your thoughts on, and one involves Juneteenth. It's a celebration of past emancipation, and Project 21 is urging Black Americans to abolish their, quote, mental and emotional slavery. Tell us more about that, because, of course, Juneteenth is coming up in 2 days.
Right. Just because, yes, we no longer have the physical bonds of slavery, but we do have the mental and emotional bonds of slavery, where you feel that, the best example, you feel so many that they have to, kowtow to the left, and you don't have to. I've met so many people who, when I ask them, why do you vote along those lines, they just said they just felt like it was expected of them. Like they've never questioned, they've never researched, they just go along. And to me, I think that's a form of slavery, because you just go along and just do what you're told instead of researching, looking.
Yeah. I'll never forget, 92%, I think, of Black voters supported Hillary Clinton in the last election. Marie, I think it was only 8% who voted for Donald Trump. That's a landslide. That's a massive landslide. Is that, I know that's been going on for many decades. Do you see that continuing or changing?
I think there's going to be a slight change, because you look at so many, you look at the Brexit movement, you look at the walk away movement, and the number of conservative organizations that are popping up. People are starting to wake up and realize, that they don't have to vote Democrat. And then it helped. We have people like Kanye West, and I believe it was Chance the Rapper, who also said, you don't have to vote Democrat. It's waking up a lot of younger people who are realizing, what else is out there? I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, this is before I got really deep in the Republican Party, I was a libertarian. And I told a friend of mine, I'm like, well, you don't have to be Democrat, but why aren't you libertarian? And this was an educated woman who had, a master's degree, and she says, what is libertarian? She had no clue.
Well, that's typical of what I hear as well. A lot of people don't really understand the libertarian concepts, and certainly they don't see anything from the Libertarian Party. So I think when people face that, they wonder, well, why vote Libertarian when they're not going to win? Why throw our vote away?
Right, but why are you continually throwing your vote towards a group that does not, I don't want to say at the end of the day, I don't want to say they don't want you, but they just want your vote. They're not going to do anything for you. They say they're doing things for you. They'll say they're doing this for the Black community and that for the Black community, but when you look at these communities that have been ruled by the Democratic Party, you look at these cities, look at the state they're in or the states that they're going in, Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, New York. It's like, is this what you want? Reality?
Marie Fischer is with us, Project 21 Black Leadership Network. Wednesday is Juneteenth, a celebration of past emancipation. The group is urging a focus on protecting freedom and opportunity and an abolishing of their, quote, mental and emotional slavery. Just to let people know, Juneteenth commemorates the anniversary of June 19th, 1865, the arrival of Union troops in Galveston, Texas. They brought with them the news of the end of the Civil War 2 months earlier and President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation that had abolished slavery 2.5 years earlier. Galveston's former slave population began celebrating its freedom on the anniversary of this day in an event called Juneteenth. It became a motivating and stabilizing commemoration for Black Texans experiencing uncertainties associated with their newfound freedom and full integration into American society. So is this a celebration you think that is positive, Marie?
I think it is positive if people would use it in a positive light. first of all, you would be surprised the number of Black Americans that have not heard of Juneteenth and does not even know it existed. Or if they've heard of it, they do not know the real reason behind it. They don't realize this was, I don't want to say the official end of slavery, it was the most widespread knowledge that slavery was officially over. Last year I did.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go tell us about last year.
Now, last year we did here in Maryland, in Frederick County, we did a combination where for us it was primary. It was our primary early voting during the primaries. So we did a whole event. We told people, vote. Go out and vote. Because when you look at numbers, unfortunately, at the end of the day, Black Americans still do not go out and vote in primaries, or they'll vote in general, or they'll vote in major general. But you don't see them voting in local primaries or local municipalities, and those are the ones, like I heard one gentleman, an African-American gentleman said, vote for the government that's closest to you because they can reach into your pocket the fastest.
Marie Fischer is with us. She's with the group Project 21. Our talk line, 504-556-9696. Marie, let's take some calls. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, speak up a little bit, Marie. I'm just having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, so if you could speak up just a little, that would be wonderful. Yes, and I don't know if you're on I don't know if you're on speakerphone or whatever, but if you are, maybe if you could take it off speakerphone, that'd be great. Let's go to Roy, who's with us in Marrero. Hey, what's happening, Roy? How are you? Good morning. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Yeah, this is not really the topic I wanted to talk on, but I will a little bit. First of all, I think that the big problem is people do not hear right. I mean, they hear what they want to hear. And so it's hard to change people's minds, especially when they're going to school and the school teaches them that the Democrat government is the right way. And then, if you go to the after school, most of the blacks that listen to the radio, the politics of Democrats is on the radio station. It's in the churches. Okay, so they hear that. That's all you're going to hear. It's a brainwash system like the whole system we have. So I mean, how are people going to think? When you
hear it on the radio, when you hear it in church, when you hear it in school, when you hear it in the neighborhood, when you hear it at the family table, right? When you hear it on TV,
I tried to talk to. I live in a neighborhood that's majority black right now, and my neighbors are black, and I have no problem. I talk with them. My best friend is black, but he'll have friends come over, and if I bring up Donald Trump, liar, first thing out their mouth, liar, he's bad for us, all this. I'm thinking, well, where'd this come from? So I don't talk politics anymore. But basically, I wanted to talk about a different issue.
Well, and I'll let you discuss your other issue, but before you do, let me get Marie's take on your comments here about what you face when you bring it up with your black friends. Marie?
Well, first and foremost, yes, it is everywhere. It's in the media. It's because the left is using the media as their propaganda machine. We've learned that. It's obvious. But what we need to do, instead of, like you said, you talk Donald Trump, don't talk Trump. Talk his policies. Talk about what he's done. You don't have to say his policies, but you use the First Steps Act. Use that as an example. Sit there and say, look, entrepreneurship for black Americans has increased greatly. We're increasing wealth. Talk about that because I hate to say it, when people hear Trump, they shut down.
What about two other stats? What about two other stats, Marie? One, food stamp usage among black Americans is down, and unemployment rate among black Americans is down under President Trump. What about those stats?
Those are good stats, but I tell people when you keep saying those same stats, unemployment and food stamp fluctuates, but if you talk about entrepreneurship, that's something that is building black wealth, and that's been one of the major issues we've had as black Americans, is that we're not building wealth, growing wealth, and passing it on to our children. If you bring up those points, then people will say, hey, maybe this is something. Maybe he is looking out for our future, not just the immediate.
Right. Okay. All right, Roy, I want to give you a chance to make your other comment, and then we got to roll. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, what I was trying to comment before, it's similar to this. I was saying that people listen, but they do not hear. Barack Obama did not say there was 57 states in the Union. What he said was, I've been to 57 states in the continental USA. I've got one more to go to. Okay? In other words, he's saying there's 60 states because the continental USA has 48. And then Alaska and Hawaii make the other two.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
right.
That's what he said. So,
right.
So don't say Barack Obama said there's only 57 states. He thinks there's 60.
Okay. All right.
So,
thank you, Roy. And just to give Marie some context here, we had a caller earlier who was blasting President Trump for not knowing how to spell the name of the country, Wales, and spelt it Whales, like the massive whales of the ocean. And
right.
And then the other caller chimed in and saying, oh, well, Barack Obama said there were 57 states. So that's what Roy was referring to. So I guess no matter what the politician, no matter where we are in American history, politicians make mistakes just like everyone else. And obviously with all the material Donald Trump provides on a regular basis via Twitter and all the other interviews he does, he's going to make misspellings, et cetera. So that occurs. He seems to get more criticism, though, than Barack Obama ever did when he made a mistake. Marie, would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a combination of, yes, the media is looking at anything to pick him apart, but also when you think about it, he makes himself out there more. I mean, you didn't see direct messages from Barack Obama. Everything you got from Barack Obama was probably filtered. Screened and screened, filtered. So by the time it got to the people, it was such a slick message. It was perfect.
Right.
But, this president...
Polished, prepared, rehearsed. Right.
Well, this president, he just puts it out there. And it's like, okay, you can ask everybody who uses social media, is your social media stream perfect?
Right, exactly. And remember, Obama was so good with the teleprompter. But when he had to go off script, he did make mistakes. He did stumble.
He rarely went off the teleprompter. I said I can tell when Trump is on the teleprompter and when Trump is not on the teleprompter. And it's about 50-50. It's so obvious. Well, Obama rarely did. He rarely went off the teleprompter. So,
all right, let's bring in one more for you, Marie, and let's get the other side of the political equation. A caller who goes by the handle Liberal Dan is with us.
God.
What's happening, Liberal Dan? Welcome aboard. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Now, I don't think the Wales comment was a mistake. I think he did it on purpose. Sorry. Bad joke. Anyway,
Gotcha.
Thanks. Yeah. Good. One of the reasons that a lot of black voters don't vote is because there are a lot of Republican politicians who are trying to suppress their vote, remove them from the rolls with false positives and other types of things. But that's perhaps a discussion for another time. The main reason I wanted to talk was about reparations and the idea of reparations. I used to not understand how one would implement it, and maybe we still don't have a good plan as to how to do it. But my thing, Jeff, let's say your grandmother had a watch, and my grandfather stole that watch from your grandmother, and you could prove that. You would want me to give back that watch, right? You would say that watch was stolen. It doesn't matter how long ago it was stolen. If it was part of your family, then you should get it back, right?
Okay, I can understand where you're going, but what if you went to me for a compensation for the watch and it wasn't my family? I had no connection to the watch. I wasn't responsible for that. Why should I have to pay for something that I wasn't responsible for? Now, my ancestors weren't responsible for. Nothing from my family had anything to do with that.
Well, here's one idea that I had, and it's kind of convolved with something else, is the whole idea of whether or not we should be, let's say certain states are doing very well with the legalization of marijuana. Let's say we legalize marijuana nationwide. A lot of the places that are legalizing marijuana are not doing things like using some of that tax revenue obtained from it, from the sale of it, to i.e. get those people who were previously incarcerated under marijuana charges out of prison, and then compensating them for being locked up for what we've now said is legal. We're allowing, big these corporations to come in and do that. So if we did that as a nationwide level, I think it would be a good idea to do that, to make sure that any marijuana legislation, for example, that would legalize it, would allow people to get out of prison who were previously locked up for what is now legal, and use some of the tax income from the sales tax of it to compensate those people for that time being locked up for what is now legal.
All right. Well, that's a different issue from reparations, but okay.
But perhaps once that's all finished, then use that money to help pay for the reparations for the other things, for the other stolen labor that we took from Black Americans since they were.
Well, let's get, and I thank you for your call and your points, Liberal Dan. Let's get Marie's thoughts on this. Marie?
Well, the only problem I have with liberation is, first of all, how would you determine who gets reparations? And the reason why I say that, I've seen how well the government does anything, which is not very effective. Are you going to sit there and go through DNAs of everybody to see who was here during slave time and who wasn't? And if you can't go by people's looks, I have a good friend. She is blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Guess what? She was adopted out, but her biological mother is black. But if you look at her, people would say, oh, she doesn't get it. And it's like, well, are you going to sit here and DNA test everybody to see who does and who doesn't? You also have to determine who was here and who wasn't. You have many people who, yes, they're African descent, but their families came afterwards. They came anytime from 1865 on was their family's descent, and who gets what? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? It's like, are you going to go by, well, here's a good example. Because you're from New Orleans, and my family's from New Orleans. They're from Thibodaux. And I know New Orleans used to have that 132nd rule, where that if you were 132nd black, you were black. So by that rule, if you recall, they said Harry Connick Jr. was considered a black man under the state of Louisiana. Would he get reparations?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's just
so would Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans, and Mary Landrieu and all the Landrieux. Right.
So who would get what, where, and how? And like I said, we've seen how well the government executes programs.
But you know what? And I just see that, Maria, we only have a minute, then we got to go. But I just see that as, again, looking in the past, looking toward history to try to, get people agitated about what happened hundreds of years ago instead of trying to move forward, looking toward the future on how we can build a better country. And we're obsessed with what happened during slave times and what happened during Jim Crow, and we're not celebrating advances and we're not celebrating achievements that have happened just in the past 2 years. Right, and I also look at what would a cash payout do? Would it do anything really in the future? It'll be a temporary fix. You'll get, $1,000 or $2,000? To me, that's a mortgage and that's it. Or as Nancy Pelosi would say, crumbs. I'm serious. She talks about the $1,000 people got extra in their paycheck. Yeah, and then your reparations, aren't those the same crumbs? Hello? Good point. All right, Marie, we got to roll, but thank you. Let's do it again, okay? Love to have you back on. Thank you for your input this morning. Great conversation. All right, we'll come back and wrap it up. Jeff Crouere here. It's Ringside on WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com.